Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD, where we are finally back for an episode of Topics and Tangents. Let's just say it hasn't been quite as long as our guest has, since he's put out, miniatures, but we'll get into that. But it's been quite a while, and I'm kind of excited to do this again. I'm also excited to have my guest, Tom Mason, whatever way I'm pointing this week, Tom Mason, back on the show. He was first on the show literally 23 months ago to the day.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But we've got some great reasons to talk to him, and I'm very excited. So if you're here, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new, blah, 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 all the YouTube-y stuff that gets annoying, for everybody to talk about. But anyways, hi, Tom.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for
having me. How you doing?
Again. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am great. I'm super excited to have you here, just because I always like talking to Tom. He's just a nice guy, and not in like the like derogatory way of like, he's a nice, no, he's really nice guy. I like that. So anyways, so it's been almost 2 years. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I feel like it's very apropos that I'm here on the Gaming with ADHD because it's what I feel like the last 2 years has been. I did the Frog Night Kickstarter about 2 years ago, and that went off. That was nice and successful. And then
I think I still need to get those, by the way.
Okay, we'll connect on that. I was looking through the pledge manager, and I was always saying, there's some people that still haven't got theirs yet. So yeah, we'll settle up afterwards. But and I just kind of went on a sojourn of life and did some gaming, and I did some sculpting for Reaper, did some sculpting for RBJ Games, and I was kind of back and forth on what I wanted to do next. I knew there's more Goblin Menace to come, but then I had an opportunity to expand the Havoc Protocol line, and that just really got me jazzed again. I haven't done sci-fi basically since I worked probably mid through my career with Mercs. What was that? Like 8 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been basically nothing but fantasy miniatures.
You haven't done sci-fi since Recon?
Nope. Yeah, that was the last time.
I still have all of my Recon stuff, by the way.
Sweet.
But that's a whole, well, it's not necessarily a whole different subject, but man, that is a lot.
That could be, yeah, we can do a different show on that sometime. Dive deep.
I feel old. Well,
yeah, it's amazing how much time has passed.
Well, and especially because we're kind of making jokes about how long it's been since you worked on Merc's Recon. But then Myth Journeyman miniatures just got delivered.
Yeah, that was wild to see those. I'm still so impressed that Ulysses pulled it off and it finally got everybody all the figures, because I had done so many of those heroes and I thought I was never going to see them in physical form. So when I got my stretch box, I was like, oh my gosh, couldn't believe this. I actually did I'll be putting it out soon, so people can watch out on my channel, Tom Mason Sculptor on YouTube. I did a unboxing of it all with Keith Lowe. So we went through pretty much all the figures from that, talked about some of the concept work and ideas going behind it, who sculpted it, various figures, and it was a lot of fun.
No, it was. I really, really like Keith's concept arts. And then especially the way that YouTube brought all of that to life, because you took a lot of his art and it wasn't like, oh, here's an inspiring piece of art and this is what I came up with. Like, it was almost like you were able to take it and just pull it into reality as is. So really, really good there. But man, that is like, it is crazy to think about how long this is that this has all been going. I mean, I know you've been sculpting for what, 20 years now.
A little over 20 years. Yeah, that's hard to believe too.
What was? Remind me again. What was the first miniature that you got paid for?
The very first miniature that I ever did and got paid for was a seahorse dragon for a little company called Fantasy West for a gentleman named Troy Megley. And Troy he was so generous and patient with me. And I still can't believe that was my first figure because I have no interest in sculpting dragons. And it was such a large figure. It was just everything about like antithesis of what I wanted to be doing as a sculptor. But I was just so excited to sculpt. I think it came out pretty well, all things considering, with my total lack of experience and whatnot. But yeah, it took me forever.
Now I'm curious. Actually, I'm not even sure I've ever seen this thing. Where?
Let me see if I can find a picture of it real quick. I'll shoot it over.
I was gonna say, is it still in production?
No. I mean, he was working with a lot of great sculptors. I believe he was contracting with Sandra Garrity and a few others. She's the only one I distinctly remember because it was a big catch for him because she was like the dragon lady at the time. Wow, let me see. Sculpting archives.
Look at this, folks. We're diving deep to get information for you.
Oh man, let's see if this system can handle it. Here we go. All right, 2002 source files. Oh shoot. Oh wait, there we go. 2003. That's right. I forgot in 2002 I did a couple things just for myself. And then I did the Seahorse Dragons.
I did say which one you got paid for.
Yep. Well, actually, the second figure I ever sculpted, I did end up getting paid for. It was a little dwarf that I did all on my own, and I think I have the contract somewhere. But you want me to send it to you over on Facebook or somewhere else?
Actually, just open it up and then just down on the bottom, just hit present, and we can just share it right from your computer.
Let's do that. So I have so many poor pic. I don't have a lot of pictures of it. So we'll try and show this. Here we go. Present. Share screen. Okay. A lot of choices here.
I was saying, just go to window,
and then picture. Boom. Okay. So this is the main body. This is after it was molded. It had a separate base. This thing is so honking thick. I mean, it'd be a fortune to cast just the base right now these days. But we had to do these separate pieces. There was kind of like these gill fin things coming off the face here, little baby seahorse wings, and then some more fins here. And then
Tom, do me a favor, zoom in on it.
Okay.
There we go.
That's why I forgot we're smaller on there. So yeah. And then I don't remember why. I can't remember if this tail was long and went behind the body. I'm thinking maybe that we just were that inexperienced. And so I cut this off thinking we needed to for it to be cast. It could have been a request of the mold maker. I just don't remember. But yeah, I was flying by the seat of my pants. This texture here I did with sandpaper. I pressed it and then I was like, oh, I need scales. So then I cut in some random scales like I was, drawing it. So
no, so I will admit, this isn't up to your current standards.
No, yeah, absolutely.
However, it is really it is always interesting to see where an artist starts, like really starts, not like just kind of fooling around, seeing if it's something that you like, but like, okay, this is something I'm actually doing, and then seeing where they are 20 years later. Because like this is still something like, okay, I'm not pulling this off, myself. But no, this is fun. This is not something that I was like, I'd never thought of a seahorse dragon, and
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, he had I'm gonna stop now. He had a very nice wide variety of dragon concepts that he had come up with. So, and yeah, it was great. It was a great time. Super great learning experience. Like I said, super, super patient.
Oh no. He's frozen. You froze again.
Okay, am I back?
Yes.
Okay. I was switching between ZBrush and this, so maybe that has something to do with it. We'll have to watch that.
Okay. Is it time for Tom to upgrade his computer?
Well, I was looking. I was like, oh my gosh, I only have 16 megs of RAM on this thing. Gigs of RAM. That would be in a lot of trouble. Remember those days? 16 megs of RAM?
I remember buying, I think it was literally 4 megabytes of RAM for about $100 a piece. Like, and this was in like 92. So yes, I do remember megs of RAM. That's how old I am. Also, so that was a fun trip down memory lane. So let's bring it a little more current. So last time we had you on, it was for the Frog Kickstarter. How well did that end up doing?
It went well. I mean, if I could break it down completely, it did half of what the goblins and the gnomes did, but it also ran half as long. It was a more challenging Kickstarter though, because the figures all ended up being a little bigger and heavier, so the costs were a little higher. I think that affected, but yeah, it went well. I was happy with it, and I had a lot of fun making those figures.
They were some of my favorites. Yes, I realized that I pushed heavily for the Frog Knights because of Sir Frogsworth. And we won't get into my other failures regarding, following up on said Frog Knights, but that's a separate issue. But no, that is good to hear that it at least kind of was in the realm of what you were expecting for it. How's the response been to it since Kickstarter?
I get some sales on them every now and then, but people really like the Gnomes and Goblins. Those are still the big hit. And I just think that they fit and work with more. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious. Everybody else, tell me what you think. I see here a lot of people here in the chat. Oh my gosh. Hey, Greg. But yeah, I think that it just, they're easier to pick up and use for a lot of different games. The Frog Knights, obviously you could use them in different things, but it's not as widespread of a character type. And I am starting to wonder, especially with some of these lines and stuff, if it might make more sense to do more distinct character figures and things like that. Not necessarily making everything an army, so to speak. So, sure.
I mean, I can see that as far as like, especially when you're still doing, sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, smaller projects. Focusing on, like you said, like a few characters as opposed to whole armies. But like, I'm sorry, I love these designs. The knights themselves, which, okay, I'm just gonna stick with this one. This is a nice big picture. But the knights themselves, nice dynamic poses, a lot of fun. I don't want to I kind of want to call it like a cartoon style, but
100%, that's absolutely what it is.
But I also feel like calling it cartoon style like sort of diminishes.
I love cartoons.
Okay. Me too. I was flipping through YouTube yesterday and saw Transformers the movie. And my son was like, yeah, I know you like that better than the live action movies. And I'm like, what live action movies? So, no, but it is just one of those where sometimes I think like calling something a little cartoony, while it does imply it being fun, also kind of implies, oh, well, it's a little less serious, and I don't like applying that to your stuff at all.
Gotcha.
But regardless, I mean, they are very fun. They are, they're nice sculpts, very, nice dynamic poses. I'll be honest, my favorites are for some reason are actually the croakers.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed doing those.
Yeah, it's just it like I like just the variety that you pulled in on those. You know, and I really need to go back and finish painting them. I need to finish painting all of your stuff, but that's a completely separate problem. So, what did I want? There we go. Okay. No, that was really cool. I had a lot of fun, number one, getting like some preview copies.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, wait, oh no. I make bad jokes. I'm sorry. So that actually is pretty good. But so have you done anything to develop, because these are part of the Little Knife and Cronin world, right?
Yeah. Yep. So that's all really pivoting, and it's all going to culminate and focus into the Goblin Menace miniatures game that I've been working on, that I first unveiled and showed off at Adepticon this past year.
Okay.
So with all that, I do plan eventually for there to be some more expansions, or just to use the ones that are in existence. But the focus for all of that kind of fantasy world is going to really point towards and zero in on that stuff for that.
So you were doing well at picking up what I was going to lay down.
Oh,
and I wanted you to talk about the Goblin Menace, because I know you were all excited around Adepticon. You're like, oh, you should be there, and I'll teach you how to play. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be there this year, so I didn't get to see anything about the Goblin Menace. So first off, for everyone, what is the Goblin Menace?
All right, the Goblin Menace is the antagonistic miniatures game. You play as small bands of goblins who are just running around causing mischief and trouble. It's very innocent, it's very cartoony, but it's a ton of fun. So most of the scenarios are centered around, they can be, well, they're definitely meant to be antagonistic, right? You're fighting each other, you're messing with each other, you're messing with the other denizens of the world. But you can play it solo, or you can play it with your friends. But you're always kind of going against each other. You can counter the world and the scenarios by you can choose to leave each other alone and just annoy the hobbit farmer. Sorry, halfling farmer, right? We gotta say that. Or you can be like, hey, he's about to run off with this vegetable. I better bonk him on the head and steal it for myself. And so there's a lot of fun interplay there where you're balancing dealing with the environmental situations and protagonist characters that the goblins come up against, and then also dealing with the other goblins who are trying to make off with the goods in their own way. So it's very story driven, a lot of emergent, interesting dynamics come out when you're playing, funny situations as you're trying to do different goals. So the main playtest scenario that I've been using and showing off is called Super Garden Sweep.
Super Garden Sweep.
Yeah. So you can have, I played it with up to 4 bands of goblins, and they're in this scenario. It starts off with, there's a garden in the middle. You've got the halfling farmer asleep in his house, Farmer Gamut. And then you've got Gamut's dog outside kind of resting, maybe supposed to be watching over things, but not really paying attention. So the goblins are running up. They're trying to sneak in there to start stealing the vegetables. And eventually they'll most likely wake up the dog, causing a ruckus, trying to get things out of the garden. The dog will start barking, and eventually the farmer will wake up. And during all that, the dog and then the farmer are starting to like run off the goblins, beating them with the shovel. Dogs nipping at their heels. And all the while, the goblins are trying to get the vegetables out of the ground and then run them off to the edge of the board, and try and get the most stuff to collect for their little lairs.
Okay, this sounds absolutely hilarious. So who's coming up? Who's actually writing the rules for the Goblin Menace?
I am. I have written the rules. Yes. So
okay.
It's I'm still doing play testing, and I'm fleshing out additional scenarios right now. I did do I got some really great feedback at Adepticon, so I'm trying out a fairly significant shift, and it's working out very well. But I do need to do a little more play testing.
I was gonna say, how was it received at Adepticon?
It was received well. I had kind of 2 blocks of good play testing going on. The first day that I did it, I think it was, I can't remember if it was I think it was a Friday that I set up. Got there as early as I could to claim a table. We did end up getting run off by the volunteers there, who were upset that we were using open play to play a game that might be sold someday. I mean, it's not like Warhammer 40,000 isn't sold, things like that. But anyways, but it was all right. We got some great games in, and I got a lot of great feedback. Played with my friends Brian Bledsoe and Camo Steve, a few other friends that I met up at the show. And then the second session later towards that was kind of more of a private thing. It wasn't private, but things were kind of winding down, and we just found a squirreled away place. Played with my friend Jody and Robert Cahoon, who gave me some really great feedback as well. So got several games in. And it was really great because I had been playing with several people here, some people here locally and my own kids, but it was really good to get it out there in front of some other people who had never experienced it before.
So what's been your biggest challenge so far in writing the rules?
Kind of deciding on directions, right? Like it's gotten a little easier as I've kind of zeroed in and moved forward. But when you start, there's so many ways you could resolve things, right? Is it a D6? Is it this other kind of dice? Are you going to do a dice pool mechanic? Are you doing this thing or that thing? So that was my initial challenge. The one that's getting tougher now, because I really got the main mechanics worked out. The game's functional. The thing that I'm trying to work on and expand on now is I want to build this out so that you can play and craft kind of your own series of stories. Mm-hmm. So to start, I'll kind of plan to give a general scenario thing, but I want you to be able to essentially, for lack of a better term, you could put together like a little deck of cards and have a story play out. Depending on what you draw, you'll play some different scenarios and they'll link together. And there will be an aspect of being able to collect things and build up a little layer so you can have some variety from your simple. The game keeps things pretty simple for the Goblin team, and where it gets more granular is how you interact with the scenario and how that changes the way you will play the game depending on the objectives. So that's getting a little tricky.
So for a simple comparison, would you say it's along the lines of like Necromunda, but with the Goblin Menace instead?
Way simpler than Necromunda, but there's definitely some elements of there, right? Like you're getting some things, right? You're having some things change over time, but you're not gaining experience. So I've tried to keep things very stripped down and to kind of have them change, but not change forever. And so it gives you a reason to kind of keep going and keep collecting things. And it's not going to just have this have you marching up to this power cliff where you either have to just like keep going or you're going to fall right off. Because,
so more like we'll say one use items, or like next scenario, you get a bonus, but it goes away at the end kind of a thing.
Right. And it really fits well with the theme of the Goblin Menace, because the whole premise is like they're the weakest, most pathetic, do nothing things in the game, in the world, right? They're these tiny little goblins.
But they're adorable.
Right. They're adorable. And that's the point of it, right? They just cause some menace, some mischief. They're not a real threat. But there's a lot of them, so they can get up to a lot of trouble. And that's really the focus of the game too. I wanted this to be something really fun that families could play together, but it's still a miniatures game. It's lighthearted. It's simple and easy, and so that's the focus.
So what are the basic mechanics of the game then?
All right, basic mechanics are you have 3 stats. You have hearts, smarts, and menace. So hearts are your hit points. And each of those could go along with a various kind of skill test, right? So if you got more hearts, you're a little bit hardier. So hearts and smarts is how cunning you are. And then menace is, fighting, causing trouble, that sort of thing. And so in general, the number there is just the number of dice you roll. Goblins have one for everything. Like I said, they're very simple, very weak. And in general, if you're gonna try and fight somebody or cause menace, you're gonna run up to them, and the two characters, whether it's a goblin and a goblin or a goblin and the dog, they're gonna roll their respective dice for whatever action they're doing. For a menace hassle. All right, I go very heavy on a lot of funny words and terminology, which might be a little challenging in the game, but I think it makes it a lot more fun. So if you're going to go hassle somebody, you're both going to roll your dice, and generally whoever rolls the highest succeeds. There's some dynamics there where goblins get a break because if they're the ones doing the action or somebody else is trying to attack them, they might get a break where they beat with ties, because they're kind of squirrely and dodging easier. It's harder to hit them. But yeah, and then nobody dies in this game. You get bonked, and you can try and get up later. So nobody's getting knifed and their throats cut or anything.
Let me guess. That's for the sequel game, the Goblin Apocalypse or something.
Yeah. And so there's like basic. There's a couple different phases. There's commotion where you're moving around. There is. I should have grabbed my sheet. There's commotion. There is mischief where you're doing your actions. There's you'll regret this, which is the phase that the protagonist, which is what I call the AI acting NPC characters, they do their thing. And then there's think about what you've done, which is a status phase. You guys try and get back up, check for different
think about what you've done.
Yeah.
You can tell that a designer has kids sometimes by the way he names things.
Oh yeah, this has been kids definitely an inspiration for this.
So is it always players versus the game? Is there always going to be that AI component, or does that just depend on the scenario?
It'll depend on the scenario. There are some. So the initial set of scenarios are going to focus. Man, now you're making me like wish. Man, I shouldn't have paused working on the Goblin Menace. No,
Tom, you've done nothing wrong.
All right. This is what gaming with ADHD is. Anyways,
exactly.
What was the question now? I distracted myself.
Scenarios. I said, no, is it always players versus AI, or does that just depend on the scenario?
Right. So it does depend on the scenario. For instance, the initial set of scenarios that I'm focusing on are going to generally have something to do with the farmer and his farm. There might be some different dynamics where maybe he might not be in it. And there might be something else going on, but I do want to have some scenarios where it really is more like the different goblins encountering themselves, and they are the only thing that you're contending with. But with that, there's going to usually be some sort of other environment element going on, even if it's not an NPC character.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so then are there plans to incorporate things like, Little Knife and Cronin or the gnomes or the Frog Knights?
Yeah. So and I'll jump back. The reason what started me down this road of designing this game, I had the goblins, and I wanted, but I mean, you can tell I want to sculpt this random thing. I want to sculpt this other random thing. This game was a way for me to start to do a little bit of whatever I wanted in a fantasy world. So the plan going forward is to basically create like another miniature or maybe a couple miniatures, and then have a scenario or some scenarios to go along and complement those. And with that said, of course, the ones that I've already created, absolutely, we'll be making some scenarios, stories to go along with them.
Sure. Okay. So then, okay. obviously, I mean, that's not technically the focus of today's chat.
That's
but
all right. I'm having fun.
I mean, but we haven't had this discussion yet. So, so do you have like an ETA when you think you're going to be ready to release it to the public, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely behind, if anybody hasn't guessed, but next year has always been the plan. I wanted to have it close to being done early next year. I don't think that's going to happen now, but I still have plans to have things finalized and have something going for it next year.
Got it. So at least like we'll say playtest rules or
have it
intro rules or something.
Public ready in some form. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Guess what? You can come back and shill that too when that's ready. So
what's today? Okay. I've got 1 year from 10/3. Okay.
No, I've told you before, you're welcome back anytime. But with that said, anyways, no, that's actually super cool. I'm glad you're having fun with this. You know that I've backed all the Kickstarters, and that yes, Patricia, I get behind schedule. I saw the
comment too.
Yeah. But it is one of those things. I've absolutely loved all of these designs and how they're coming out. Just the fun, just the interest in those miniatures that you just don't see. Like I was on your website, before we went live, and realized that there's David and Lisa Rumpelstump from the Gnomes. I didn't even know those got released, but they're hilarious. Here, folks, maybe if I was a professional, I'd have this up and ready and I could show it to people. I don't know. There we go. I mean, like, those just look like they're, like supposed to be out in front of my yard or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love all of the designs for this world and what you've been doing with it. And so I don't know. I'm excited to see what comes out of it, beyond just the goblins.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I am too.
Because the goblins are fun, but he does more than goblins, folks. Don't put him in a box. Don't lock him in.
I do want to do more goblins though, and that's I'll save that for another time. But I got some mechanics in place in the game that give you reasons to have a variety of different goblens.
Right. Well, I mean, and there's already a variety out there, so there's even more variety coming.
Yep.
So here's a question then. So I forget. Have you moved over to fully 3D sculpting, or are you still just doing it by hand?
Well, I'm going to start by saying this. All sculpting is 3D.
Well,
but I know what you mean. No, I haven't moved completely. I mean, the majority of my sculpting is done digitally. Yes. But okay, I still
digitally
go back and forth and do traditional as well. So,
okay. And which do you prefer?
Well, my eyes, I've really noticed a shift in my eyes recently. So I have, so digital has been definitely easier, but I got rid of them a long time ago. I got a pair of Optivisor magnifying headset, and it's fine now. It's fine doing traditional. No, it's it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Let me put it this way. I actually do enjoy the traditional. There's some things that when I'm sculpting certain things that I'm like, oh, I wish I was on the computer with this. But in general, I'm kind of like, I get into more of a flow state with the traditional. Whereas I kind of keep like a techie mind when I'm when I'm on the computer working that way. I think it's because I just, you know, that you can go back and change and manipulate so easy. And sometimes it's like hard for me to just commit and lean into it. So I don't know. It's just like everything else, right? I like them both. I just keep jumping back and forth. And
no, I mean, and I think that's interesting because, I mean, especially nowadays, like, I mean, I've got a 3D printer. I'm guessing you probably have a 3D printer, you know, and so they're fun, they're convenient. The absolute flood of miniatures that are out there because of 3D printing these days. You know, it's interesting to me to see that there has been that shift, and how people that are like, do you think there's going to be a change in the industry when there aren't any more sculptors who used to do it the old school way with just green stuff and hope?
I think we're already seeing that some, but I think there's always going to be a segment that is traditional for sure. Cause, you know, it's going to be harder, I think, because people are going to have to seek it out a little more to learn. Right. Be willing to do it. My biggest, well, I don't know if it's really a concern. I thought it was a concern, but I do wonder, you know, we've got these amazing folks that manufacture metal and plastic figures, you know, but they're not going to, you know, unless they pass the torch, they're not always going to be around. So if somebody isn't picking that up, that's frankly bigger concern of mine is, you know, continuing to find high quality, manufacturing partners that can do this, like Fortress Figures. You know, they're not going anywhere for now, but you know, like I said,
I mean, that's true. I mean,
it's wild to think about.
Does Reaper even still do metal miniatures?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know if they've got rid of all of their spin casting. I know they have a lot of other machinery to make physical, but like this, I think the CO cast, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean that I think is the like, I think you bring up a much more interesting point in that, you know, yeah, there's going to be change in how people, you know, do the initial designs, but if you are making it in a traditional way, is there even going to be anyone who can actually produce the thing?
It's interesting. I think what we might end up seeing is, especially if these manufacturers start to disappear, we'll probably see something like we used to see, where there was a lot more kind of garage industry, where the person's going to learn, they're going to make their own figures, and they're also going to learn how to produce their own figures,
right?
You know, get some of the machinery, because there's some very cost effective routes to doing that even still. So.
Well, I mean, no, and I get that. I mean, it's not. I mean, at this point, you could say it's a proven technology. But it again, it's just one of those things where, you know, what's the actual demand, you know?
Yeah.
And so, man, that's an idea I hadn't even considered in that. So. Anyways, all right, you got me going down a direction that I So with your Goblin Menace, like all of those are just traditionally cast, correct?
They are all traditionally cast. Yep. The Goblin Menace, Gnome Guard. Yeah, everything is produced in metal.
Okay. And why have you stuck to that as opposed to, you know, more modern options?
Yes. Well, I like producing a physical product. I like creating now, you know, obviously if I were to do a bunch of digital sculpts and offer them as STLs, that's still putting together a product, but I still like to be able to put something together that, you know, I can send to you, and then you just have to start painting it. You don't have to do additional work of printing them and things like that. So, and yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else? Like, I know there's some expectations that I haven't dove into and understanding. Like, I know with a lot of STLs, there's getting pre-supported. That's a big thing, and not that that's insurmountable, but I'd have to look for some people to help with that, because I'm not the greatest at that. I've like printing my own figures.
I use auto supports. Trust me.
I do too. But even there, I mean, I was having a lot of problems not too long ago, but I got things working finally, so that's good.
Right. No, but I mean, so
metal is very durable and long lasting too.
Right. I mean, there's it. I'm not trying to present it as like you're quote unquote doing something wrong. It is just one of those questions of, because there's the industry is kind of changing in that regard, and I guess you could say it is both a positive and a negative. Like, it's fun to be able to be like, oh, I have this giant library of STLs, but then it can also get buried, amongst the flood of everything else. I think when you go to places like Adepticon, and you can sit there and show off like the actual metal miniatures, I think it definitely feels different than if it's just a 3D print, even.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I have, but it has been on my mind, especially more recently. When I did the first 3, the Goblin Menace, Gnome Guard, and the Frog Knights, it had definitely started to evolve during that time. But the 2 years since then, it's like big time. Like, everybody, there's so many doing STL, and I have thought about that. I'm still toying with the idea. I actually seriously considered it with this latest Kickstarter of doing physical and offering STLs. The reason I didn't this time was that half the line is still traditionally sculpted. And I thought it'd be weird to offer an option to here, you can download the STLs, but it's only half the line. So
that's true. I mean, so would you essentially need to just re-sculpt the entire line digitally? Or
that's actually how I would think I would approach it. I was talking with some friends who were suggesting looking into digital scanning, and that's possible, that's viable. But I've never done this. But what's it called? Privateer Press used to do this quite a lot, and Games Workshop does it to it feels like a lesser degree, maybe more nowadays. But working in for a puzzle company, we would refresh stuff all the time. So we'd sell the same puzzles. Sometimes we would change out what the puzzle was, but after a certain amount of time, we would change the look of the particular line, and then we would end up selling the same puzzle again, just with a different brand look to it. And so you can do the same sort of thing with miniatures, and I think it's useful, especially as an artist progresses over the years, to sometimes revisit an old sculpt and update it. And so that's how I think I would approach it if I end up going that route.
Well, overall, I guess I would say, what is your thought on the 3D miniature, we'll say, market in general? Like, does it scare you as a sculptor, or is it...
By 3D, you mean digital?
Yes, that's sorry.
Oh, sorry. I can't remember who I first got that with a long time ago. I was on one of these, but anyways, I'll say this. One of the reasons that because like I said, I've been sculpting digitally for quite a few years now, but one of the reasons I didn't dive headlong into that is there was this expectation for a lot of sculptors to do the Patreon monthly thing, which there's plenty out there that have made a killing at it, are doing very well. But you have to have a very distinct schedule and time frame to be able to dedicate to keep pumping out. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. So that, I think that was definitely I took that heavily into account when I pressed back against it, because I didn't want to be tempted or feel like I was getting dragged into that arena. I know I could always still just put them up and put them out, like on my Mini Factory, even on my own website. But yeah, that was heavy on my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really true. It's just the pressure, because like let's be honest, like a lot of them, it's say
Did you
$10.
Is everybody hearing Brian okay? He
Hello?
sounds very quiet to me.
Good. Better?
I can hear you. Try again.
How about now?
It's very quiet.
Yes, maybe. Can you hear my wife puttering around in the kitchen?
I can hear you. All right, keep going. We'll see if anybody else is having problems. Maybe it's just me. Okay, it's just me.
Okay.
Go.
So yeah, there is that expectation with like the Patreons or the tribes on My Mini Factory, whatever, because you're paying what, say $10 a month usually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, here's an army worth of miniatures.
Yeah.
And like at scale, when you've got, say 500 people backing you, I mean, yeah, that's easy, quote unquote, easy to do, but they're also, farming that out to a whole bunch of teams. And so then you also have that problem of how do you compete from a quote unquote value perspective? Like to me, the value is Tom Mason, but there's going to be a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, he only puts out one miniature a month and it's $6.
Right.
Yeah. So
there's been some people who have had some success. I don't know if this is how they ended up, but and they recently stopped. I think it's called One Gold Piece. They did a thing. You do $1 and whatever they decide to sculpt, that's what you got. And sometimes it was one figure, sometimes maybe it was two, and they did all right. There was something else I was going to ask you about or say about this. Oh, I was going to say one thing that I am encouraged though about the digital landscape is I am seeing. You can still get a lot of these prints for a reasonable price, but I am seeing what I consider to be more worthwhile for people's effort of like, a single figure being $5, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And that's been encouraging because for a while there, like you said, yeah, you get, 100 minis for $10 a month. And it's like, oh my gosh, like how is anybody going to compete with that?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, I like it, like I said, it's cool. And I've got a giant library from a couple of places, but that's the other problem is like, okay, so I have so many, I'm never going to print all of this. I'm never going to paint what I do print. Like I've been printing a bunch of stuff and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get to all of this. So that, and I'm still behind on my goblins,
Yep.
So, but yeah, so it is kind of interesting. So are you reconsidering moving into the digital space, or
it's on my mind with every project? I'll say this for Goblin Menace, it's I was going to say foreseeable future. The plan is to keep it physical because for that, I want to present a complete ready to go product that the person gets. I don't want, at least initially, maybe the world will change and every single person has a printer and printers are even easier to use.
Right.
I could totally change everything. Right. Or, the people I work with can't produce them for whatever reason. But yeah, I still really enjoy having a nicely put together product that I can pop out. I got all this stuff. I can just, obviously with miniatures, there's always a little bit of a lead time before you play because you got to, at the very least, put them in, stick them to their base.
Right. At least glue them together.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, right? You don't have to print it. You don't have to set it up and then print it and then clean it and then cure it and then
you spilled the bottle of resin all over the carpet.
Go, right.
Now your wife's yelling at you. And
yeah. Cal said it just right. Printing is its own hobby for sure.
Yeah, no, well, and especially with like the resin, the funny thing is I've actually found it to be really easy to work with. Like in general, like I just put the file in the printer and I say go and it prints, and it's done. Whereas then you get like the filament printer, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to hit print. Oh, well, nope, that just turned into spaghetti. Why did it turn into spaghetti?
The resin was definitely a lot more plug and play. I agree with that for sure.
Right. But it's definitely but Cal's completely right though, that it is a hobby in and of itself, as opposed to just going to the store, getting the box off the shelf, and your hobby being the painting or playing the game, whatever it is. It definitely becomes its own thing. So
yeah, I was when I first got into this, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to sculpt them. I wanted to get my own spin casters. I wanted to mold everything. And I never did that. I did play with some drop casting, various resin, and even some metal ones that I had a little, there's a little kit called Vulcamold that would actually let you make your own drop cast metal stuff. But eventually I was like, man, I mean, Fortress figures, they just are so much. I mean, they're equipped, they're fast, and they're really good at what they do. And I just let that go. And I'm like, oh, now I have more time to sculpt or paint miniatures and play games. And it lets me focus. And it's the same for me. It's the same with the printing. I did finally get the printer because I wanted to be able, especially when I was starting to do more digital, I wanted to be able to check on my stuff just to make sure, feel a little more confident, not have as much back and forth having somebody else test print. And then I'll admit there was some miniatures specifically that Alex Huntley did that I'm like, man, I've got to be able to print and play with this. So
yeah, I only have like a couple of people that I really follow in the digital space. Just because like I said, there's just a flood. But it has also been kind of interesting. So like I decided, I think it was back at the beginning of the year. So like YouTube has like the channel memberships, like Patreon or whatever. And I was trying to think of a way to use it, but I don't make any of my videos members only. I don't like if a video goes up, I guarantee you it finished recording about 15 minutes before it went live. Okay. I don't edit. I don't do any of that. So
that's
it's like,
I don't really get into. It kills me all the time it takes to edit, but I get so self-conscious about doing stuff live.
No, I'm not even talking live. Okay. I'm talking.
Gotcha. But you're just stream of consciousness and then it goes up. There you go.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Like if I can get past the first 30 seconds where I don't think I sound like an idiot, then I don't even care what happens after the rest of it. I'm not re-recording it. Like mid video, I'll drop something. I'm like, oh, excuse me. Anyway, so I was trying to figure out a way to like add in the subscription factor. And so I just like, you know what? I'm going to I'll do a member giveaway. If I have at least this many members, then I'll do a giveaway for the month, and I'll find a 3D printable miniature, and I'll paint it and I'll send it off to the person. And so it is fun having that big variety where I can just go. I don't have to worry about, having it shipped to me, $3 to get, a single figure STL, things like that. Yeah. So anyways, short answer, if you set something up, Tom, I'll get it. So there's that. I'm not sure one person's enough to make it viable though. So,
well, I mean, there is a lot less investment, right, than when you put out the digital stuff, right? So
yeah,
maybe it'll be okay.
So maybe, I don't know. We'll figure that out. You
definitely have to do a lot more planning when you're going to produce physical product,
Right, but I mean, it is still something different. I mean, I would if you had metal goblins next to 3D printed goblins at Adepticon, I would probably be going with the metal ones. Just it's a different experience. The 3D prints are fun in that you get some of that just random variety, but I don't know.
Well, you bring up another interesting thing that I think about a lot is, and I think it's merging more than it used to be. I think somebody mentioned that the younger folks are more eager for the 3D printables. But I do wonder, I mean, it almost seems like there's separate markets. I'm sure there is some crossover and it's blending more, but yes, you're definitely selling to a specific group. They need a printer. They need to have the willingness to print, that sort of stuff, versus people that do just want to get the thing and be able to start painting.
So, yeah, no, exactly. So, all right. So let's do this because I think we've gone all over the place.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been good conversation.
No, it had. I always have a good conversation with you. I just like Tom. There we go.
It's because it's been so long. We did. It's been so long since I've been on here. We didn't get to see each other at Adepticon, so a lot of catching up needed.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's bring this up because I'm also going to have quite a few questions on this.
Okay,
Havoc Protocol. What the crap is Havoc Protocol? You already sold me on Little Knife and Cronin or the Goblin Menace or whatever we're calling it today. And now we've got Havoc What is this?
Havoc Protocol is my sci-fi line of miniatures inspired by my love of games like Necromunda. Obviously, this is not a game. Just want to preface that. It's just a cool line of sci-fi miniatures. But the look and everything comes heavily from Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star, Blade Runner, things like that. Just kind of a little amalgamation of things. So the latest version is Havoc Protocol Villainy, and so with this one, I'm expanding out. The original kind of line was a few specialist characters that take on specialist roles, which I've changed them. They're now called operatives. Then there was a squad, Havoc Squad, of these little troopers, and now finally I'm expanding that to have some more specialist units with unique weapons and roles as well for the squad. And now I'm adding in some villains just to help expand it, put a little more flavor into the world beyond these troopers that I've been doing.
Okay. So, all right. So this, I mean, obviously this is the guy from the cover photo. So who is this?
So that's the villain. His name is codenamed Phantom Vulture. And he is supposed to be a ruthless, up-and-coming enforcer for some crime syndicate. I'll be very transparent. It's a very loose world in my mind. I have just enough right now that like gets me going, gets the creative juices flowing to create these fun trooper models and stuff. And so, but I wanted to start expanding that out and adding more depth into it. So we've got this guy here who is ultimately going to kind of be the first line of the villains to help create that opposing force of characters.
Okay. Now, did you sculpt him physically or 3D? I mean, digitally.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I actually missed that you said that. I was going to do something right over. That's funny. I got you trained now, though. No, I sculpted this character. Oh,
real quick.
Want to guess?
No, real quick. Thanks, Game Masters. Appreciate it, buddy.
Mini Raid. Yeah, I sculpted this character digitally. All of the new figures for the line I sculpted digitally.
Okay. And so where did the inspiration for this guy come from?
So the inspiration for this, I wanted to develop. I had the idea to develop and expand the line beyond just these kind of jumpsuit troopers that I had been doing in the past. When I did the last Kickstarter, which is over 10 years ago for this, my friend Aaron Manier, who's an illustrator, comic artist, did some concept art for the Founders, which were these kind of NPC executive civilian characters. And I'm a huge fan of Aaron's work. and I really wanted to work with him again. So I had the inspiration of doing like a villain character, and I wanted to sculpt something that Aaron concepted and created. So I went to him, we went back and forth, came up with some ideas and approaches for like what this character, the essence of him would be, and the look. And then he got to work and came up with this illustration.
Okay. So do you normally farm out like your concept art work?
No, for the lines that I've done, the vast majority of them, I've done all the design work myself. I think you can really, that's I think why things have kind of jived as well as they have, especially with the fantasy stuff, because that's really where, I mean, I really like the sci-fi stuff, but I have to push and press myself a lot more for it. The cartoony stuff is where, my happy place is, I guess.
I was gonna say, because we're friends outside of this, and so like during like Inktober and whatnot, you'll do your little concept sketches, and then I'll be upset that I can't buy any of them off of you, things like that. Or I remember that conversation at least once, and you're like, "No, this is mine."
Yeah, but I mean, in this character, I wanted something different too. So I'm trying to think if I have done. I don't mind. I actually enjoy working off of concepts, other people's concepts, and especially when it's something a little more out of my comfort zone, like this is. So, being able to work with Aaron and have him lend his creative juices was a big help.
Okay. So let's see. So is it now? I know there are some other miniatures coming up, and we'll get to that in a second. But is this the only villain in this planned Kickstarter, or are there possibly more?
There are possibly more, but I don't want to jinx it. So well, how do I want to say it? if other figure, let me put it this way: if other figures are added to the Kickstarter, they're going to be more villains. So, but I'm not going to say or push what those are yet. I wait for funding to happen first, and then I talk about it. So I don't want to.
So there are stretch goals, folk, but we've got to get it funded first. Yes. And currently we're at $1,800 out of $5,000.
Yep. Got lots of time. It's a 30-day campaign. So lots of time.
Got it. All right. So then let's move down to this. So we've got the Havoc Squad Specialist. Who are these guys? Whoa.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's nice. So these are the expansion for the original Havoc Squad, the Havoc team, which was basically just about 5 different troopers, uniquely sculpted, posed. But I wanted to add a little bit more flavor, a little more dynamics, so that if you were using these in different games, you had more variety and things to put out on the table. So, let's go from left to right. We've got the medic, a heavy blaster, what do I call that one? Blaster cannon, sniper, and then a comms officer or communicator liaison person.
Okay. Are these all single piece figures or?
Yeah. They actually every figure in the line is a single piece cast. So you just pop them in their base, ready to go. That's one of the things I will do separate pieces if I absolutely have to, but I work really hard to get a lot of movement and action, but try to keep them single piece if I absolutely can, because I just know it makes it a lot easier for people to deal with getting them together to the table.
I was gonna say, like, that's a lot of like flowing and almost undercut looking stuff.
Yep. But I've got my tricks. I make sure that get them all backfilled, and then it helps having the amazing mold makers that I work with too. They can do wonders.
And it doesn't hurt that you've done this for over 20 years.
Yeah. Yep. I've got a lot. I've been practicing for a little bit.
So, no, and I will admit, I was kind of surprised on this guy, the fact that he's actually got the cannon behind him, like he's prepping instead of actually shooting. So I was a little I'm like, should I say something or just like leave the artist alone?
I did. I went back and forth with that because I had a lot of guys shooting. I was like, I wanted to try something different. But yeah, I had the same thought. I was like, I do like it. I like how he turned out, but it is one of those things, right? Where should he be in total action mode, or is it more interesting than
like the two guys in the back?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would assume those guys would have like a ready pose or like a carry pose kind of a thing. But you don't normally see that with the heavy weapons. So I actually do think that is a selling point. I'm just trying to get my brain to shut up and say, no, this is fine.
Going back to the game design, it's like there's so many different ways to do it. It's like, I guess, is this right this time? Is this the best approach? Well, I'll sculpt another one. Maybe I'll try them this way this time. Yeah.
I mean, or maybe that could be a stretch goal.
Could be. Do we need a action cannon pose?
Action cannon pose. See? Get it to 10,000 folks and we can get an action cannon pose. Does that sound fair? No, I Bear the Gen X GM is in chat and he's probably just sitting here screaming at me being like, Brian, shut up. I know my wife is, just on the other side of the room, but all right. So all right, let's look at this then. So we've got the Phantom Vulture, if you want to just get him all by his lonesome, which, come on, folks, why would you get a villain and not have heroes to take him down? Let's ask that. But $15, that's, it is not an inexpensive miniature, but
yeah, he's premium, but there's I tried to make some good incentives for folks if they were getting the other ones to be able to get that guy. So
right, and then we've got the squad for $35, or you can get everything,
all the new stuff. That's the new stuff. Yeah.
So save $5 and get any stretch goals.
Yep.
So there's that. Let's see. We then have, all right. So this is when we start getting into some of the old stuff, I'm assuming.
Yep. So this basically gives you the complete squad. You've got all the troopers, all the specialists, and the way the pricing works out there, you're getting a deal on those two groups, and then essentially you're getting that the villain figure for free.
Got it. Okay.
And then same thing here. This is everything that's currently available in the line, and with the free villain figure.
Okay.
And this is going to be a bundle that I'm only going to have during the Kickstarter portion. Once that's all done, it's all going to break up and buy them a la carte.
You can nothing here is Kickstarter exclusive. Just the bundle.
Correct.
Is exclusive.
Yes, the bundle is the exclusive.
Got it.
That's a good distinction. Thank you for pointing that out, because I could see how somebody might.
I was going to ask, what is Kickstarter exclusive in this bundle? Yes. And it's the bundle itself.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I want to. I know it was here. So, okay, here we go. So, all right. So here's the Havoc squad. Okay, I'm gonna be a little critical, even as somebody who is not a sculptor.
You're gonna pick on 12 years ago, Tom.
No, that's what I was going to ask, actually. Okay. So these are clearly modern day Tom. I'm going to assume sculpted within the last 6 months.
Yep.
Ish. Okay. So 12 years ago, Tom would put you approximately at Megacon Games.
Right before I did this was in 2012. So I sculpted these, kickstarted them a year before I joined them. Almost a year. Yeah, it was a little over a year before I joined them. Yep.
Which I like this. Vintage. So I will say I still like these, but they definitely feel a little bit older. Obviously. So okay, I have to ask, why do the guns look different?
Those are photographs of the sculpts and the not the castings, and the guns are metal castings. So I sculpted it once, and then I had it molded, and then I didn't want to sculpt it 5 times, so I had castings made. And I never took photos of the figures primed or whatnot. So yeah.
Okay. No, that makes, I should have put that all together, but I didn't. So, anyways. So no, but it is kind of interesting because these definitely have kind of a Mercs feel to it. And I did like those Mercs figures. Like I said, I still have all of my Recon stuff. That was an interesting game.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So you get a squad of these guys.
And I kind of split things up the way I did because I know that there's several people who do have a lot of the old stuff. So I wanted to still make things viable and worthwhile for folks that had the old stuff and just needed the new stuff. But if people were coming in and jumping on all the way, I wanted to let them be able to do that. So. Yeah, no,
it's cool. I like your stuff, Tom. That's all there is.
Would that help? All right. It would help. I knew I should have done that.
Wait, would what help? Sorry.
New photos.
Oh, new photos.
Still the time gap, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, we have the operators, and you even got painted versions of these up.
Yeah, those are the only ones I've ever. I got those painted before the above Kickstarter, the original Havoc Protocol. So these were done before I'd even contemplated Havoc Protocol. I did 2 fantasy figures, a barbarian and a dwarf, and then I did the 3 Havoc ladies. Or whatever they weren't called that, sci-fi ladies. I think I just called them sci-fi chicks way back when.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, I like these costumes. I want to push this further and develop it, and that's what became Havoc.
Very, very much I'm going to call it a bubblegum crisis kind of look to it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. This whole thing is bubblegum crisis, a little bit of Robotech jumpsuits, that sort of stuff.
Oh, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
So, were these from 12 years ago as well, or
no? They're older. Maybe 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. Those were done over a long period of time. I did the one in the middle first, and then a little bit later did the one on the right in the green, and then the last one. I can't remember how much before the Kickstarter, but was done last, the one on the left.
I will admit,
took a while.
I will admit, green's my favorite.
Yep.
I like the pose. I like the sculpt. You did really well on the hair there. Yeah.
Thanks.
So, anyways, that's going to be my vote. All right, and then who are these?
These are the founders. So when I did the first Havoc Protocol, kind of like I'm doing with the villain, I wanted there to be a little more going on in the world than just here's a bunch of soldiers. That's what most miniature lines do, and because it's what we need to play with. But I really like the idea of having civilians or something different than just a trooper. So these are the 2 figures that my friend Aaron did the concept work for. He totally. I just said, hey, I want to do these kind of sci-fi executive, high fashion people, and he went to town, and so he came up with the design start to finish.
Yeah, no, it's like these are fun. When did you do these?
They were done during the Havoc Protocol Kickstarter. So I had put them up as an add-on with Aaron's illustration, and so when the Kickstarter ended, I got to work and sculpt those. So those would have been around 2012. Yeah, they would have been done.
Yeah, it's about 12 years ago,
or the beginning of 2013.
Same ballpark. Close enough.
Yeah. Because my Kickstarters, for what this is crazy. Even way back then, I always seem to do the Kickstarters around October. I don't know why. I do know why. Because what happens is I'll do some work. Maybe I won't do some work for most of the year, and then I'm like, holy crap, the year's almost over. I better do something.
So what's your excuse for 2023?
I think that I just laid back and decided to game, and I just did other things. I was drawing.
I'm teasing you, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it is fun. I mean, I think like these I could easily see being used for like any kind of like a superhero world. You know,
What's funny you say that? Yeah.
Why is it funny that I say that?
Well, maybe I don't know if people notice this, but I did mention this to a friend. Scroll down to the next image. The guy all the way to the right. That's I wanted to sculpt Cyclops. So if you like remove the gun and the backpack and you pretend he's shooting a laser beam, you're like, oh, it's Cyclops.
Oh,
he's got like a weird visor thing on.
I mean,
so that was my inspiration for that character.
I mean, I assumed that he was just like, you know,
he is totally, he's talking to the team,
right,
or to the HQ. But like, if a couple things were removed, he could totally be eye blasting somebody.
The pose is supposed to be like, okay, that's actually fun. You realize I'm gonna have to paint these guys all in blue and yellow now.
Oh, that would look really good, actually.
It would, but still,
yeah, that's
like. Actually, yeah, like blue base, and then like these pads on the leg. Mm-hmm. Just do a yellow for those. I mean, my painting sucks, so it's not going to look that good, you know. But
I like it. I've been toying around with a couple color schemes myself, and that's one I didn't think of, which is silly because I literally just told you what they were based on, and that would work. So I'll try that myself.
Great. Now Tom's stealing my ideas. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't worry. I won't get around to painting either. So
that's awesome. So then like outside of stretch goals, because we don't want to jinx any of that. Are there more plans for Havoc Protocol in the future, like next year in the future, or a couple years from now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got actually quite a lot of concept art that I've drawn over the years for different things like investigators, or things I kind of went back and forth, but I wanted to have these what's it called?
Villains.
Kind of like Firefly, right? You know, a crew of these kind of like freelancer ship people, and because this like I said, it's Cowboy Bebop is heavy influence, so you can there's limited planet hopping if we were to get that granular, and yeah, so yeah, I would like to do more of that as well as more villains, really flesh out that side.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Oh yes, we have to address this comment.
Which one?
Oh, I think you flashed it up.
Oh yeah, it's my co-host on my Wednesday. My current co-host on my Wednesday deep dive stream said he will hold me to painting the miniatures. So, actually, I mean that's kind of interesting. Like for me, like doing a live stream a couple of times a week. Mm-hmm. Just keeps me quote unquote responsible for getting stuff done. I'm still all over the place. Like you show up one day and I'm painting like what am I painting? Oh, going back to 3D printed miniatures. So like I have to go back even farther. I keep buying all these books that I don't read or use. And so I decided it's like, okay, I'm going to start doing like some rules deep dives, like literally reading through the rule books, so that way I force myself to read it. And then it's like, oh, well, we can, like at least for now, we'll do some giveaways. Cause so we're doing the Eberron campaign setting, and this, I'll give you some more details later, but basically I found these miniatures that look like they're out of Eberron, but it's just some guy sculpting them and putting them up.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, I have these. I printed these off. You know what? I'll give these away when we do the deep dives to kind of bribe people to show up. If you show up, then I'll give miniatures away. Anyway, so that's what I'm currently painting. But like, I'll paint that, or I'll paint BattleTech, or I'll paint Warhammer, or I'll paint, Frog Knights, or what. So it's still all over the place. I'm not getting any whole projects done, but at least it does help, stick me to, to at least getting some painting done. And people tell me I'm getting better, so there's that,
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, consistency is a huge thing. That's what I preach on with the sculpting tutorials that I put out. It's just some of this stuff takes time.
So actually, that does make me want to ask you, what is it that keeps you motivated to just sticking with doing the sculpting and getting some projects done?
Well, I mean, I love creating. I like inventing these characters and being able to bring them to life in a physical world. I just wish I could stay a little more focused, but there's so many cool things to be able to make. So I'm like, okay, I'll do goblins for a while, and then I'll do gnomes, and I'll do the sci-fi thing, and eventually I'll wrap back around. And
well, and so then how do you decide what to do? I mean, there is also kind of that freedom, like as a miniatures player, it's like there are all these cool miniatures out there, and sometimes it's like, oh, I would want one like this, but then like I can't sculpt it. So like being able to have that freedom of, oh, I like that, I'm gonna make my own, and just be able to do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what kind of an interest will get triggered or spiked in me. And then I'll start like, oh, I want to make something like that. And so I'll start concepting and going deeper, and the excitement will keep building. And then the struggle comes to, especially when I get to the sculpting point, because that's when the real work starts, to see that through, which sometimes takes me a little while to push on and get it all done.
All right, what's your biggest struggle in getting it done?
The biggest struggle is kind of getting in my way mentally, thinking that it's not going to turn out as well as I want, and so I kind of drag my feet on doing it. I've heard there's a lot of artists will have this term for their work, the Valley of Suck or something like that, where you get to this point, right? You're roughing things out. It's maybe going in the right direction, but it just looks so bad because you just have to put some time into it to add those extra details and refine it a little more. And man, sometimes it can get real hard to get out of that. Even if you're putting in the time, but you just keep you don't raise it to a certain point. That's why I've always tried to, and I'm not an expert at this, but if I do everything I can to get myself in a mental place to like push through, I really try and focus on a cool pose, and then I try and just like sculpt or fix some part so that it can start to look a little finished, because it's very easy to just noodle around in that rough zone for a long time. You eventually have to take a leap, and then it starts to feel like I'm going downhill. It's easy now.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay, now it's just cleaning up a detail or fixing, or or the print didn't come out right. Okay, so I need to adjust that. But getting over that hump is that's where I like, for me, my biggest struggle, I would say, is getting started on a project, like just pulling that trigger, as like so. Anyways,
it's gotten a little easier over the years, but it's still hard. Yeah. And taking it from idea to action is, very, very different, right? It's a different level of commitment.
Right. And so this is how much I prepare, folks. Because I'm literally thinking up questions on the fly. How much do you rely on feedback from others, or do you just stick with, nope, I'm doing what I want? And
my wife has called me an asshole. I'm not typically that way with her anymore, especially with the creative stuff. I keep pretty insular. There's a core group of people that I ask and show stuff to, but I typically don't throw it out there really wide.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to the sculpts, I feel pretty confident about what I want. But there might be little things that I'm like, should I go this way or that way? But I do have a tendency to, and one of the reasons why I've kind of built that up is I really have a tendency to like, part of me wants somebody else to make the decision for me, which that's what makes you an asshole. You want somebody else to make the decision, and then you're like, now that you said it, I know what I really wanted. So that's something, yeah.
I hadn't thought about it that way because I do the same a lot. As I try to get, I'm just thinking of it as feedback. It's like, oh, this is no big deal. I hadn't actually thought that. No, I'm just trying to get someone else to make the decision, or see what their decision would be, and then it either confirms my decision or makes me rethink it. So,
and I'm sure there are times, right, that you or I are actually looking for feedback. But I know for me, I have to make sure I'm in the right headspace, because I used to, even if I would fight against the criticism, right, or whatever, and I'm working on being more open to that, or at least if I'm going to ask for it, I try and preface what specifically I'm asking about. Like, if I'm like feeling really confident, I'm not changing this. They can still tell me about it, but I want to make sure that they know that I am very excited and I want this thing this way. So you can say something, but it's not really
right,
what I'm asking or looking for.
Like, do you like the hair on the miniature? I'm willing to change the hair. That's the only thing I want the feedback on. Don't tell me that the boots look ugly.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
I don't care. I like
it. Right. No, that's actually really interesting, because it again, this is making me rethink a lot of how I approach things. Just because like I've seen, like, with my channel, I'm trying to make some little minor changes and do things a little bit more. I don't want to call it more professionally, but like just better. And so I'm trying to ask for feedback, but I think I'm throwing my net too wide.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So anyhow, that was.
But you're totally right. It is good to ask for feedback and to show things off, and but yeah, I just try and be self-aware so that I don't look like an asshole.
And Grim Squirrel really likes that term. I have a feeling that her and Seraphis are going to be using that quite a bit. All right. So anything else we should know about the Kickstarter?
It is running, like I said, it's running for about 30 days. It will end at 8 p.m. Eastern time on the 30th. So everybody can run out and, plenty of time to go on for Halloween.
I was saying, you don't have to miss out on trick or treating for the
you don't
end of.
You don't have to miss out on trick or treating. I'll be, I'll be handing out candy, maybe walking around with my daughter if she wants it. And yeah, so I don't know. Is there anything else? Yeah, I'm really excited and thankful for everybody that's backed already, and I'm excited to see others join in, and I hope we get the chance to do some more figures before the end of the campaign.
And folks, it is all like, there are links in the description. There's a link directly to Tom Mason's website, which makes me laugh because it's the Tom Mason, not just any Tom Mason. It's the Tom Mason. So
yeah, I need to. I'm going to rework the website eventually. It's going to go back to being Effigy Miniatures, yeah, I was that was sort of during some of my time discovery, right? I was like, am I doing a line of miniatures? Am I just putting myself out as an artist? I don't know.
I
was like, well, I'll grab my name, then I'm covered.
Yeah, right. So, no, I just thought it was funny that it was the Tom Mason. So, will the real Tom Mason please stand up? So, but yeah, so there's a link to his website if you wanted to order any of the existing miniatures. There's a link to the Kickstarter down below. I know I backed it. I forget what level I backed. I don't, whatever. Tom's getting money out of me. That's all that's important
Thank
here.
you.
So,
Thank you.
but so anything else, I guess, that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about just miniatures with you for a minute. Not necessarily mine. I was catching up on some of your videos, and man, I am super jealous. You got all those sweet BattleTech mercenaries. Most importantly, the first time I said strikers. Man, those look good.
All right.
Wait. Yeah, you finished. Then I got a question for you. Go ahead.
No. Ask your question first.
Well, I was gonna say, so you watched the cartoon like back in the day? Did you watch it back in the day? Okay. Yeah. So I've been into BattleTech forever. It was my first miniatures game, and when that cartoon came on, I could not believe it. Like I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I love it to death, and watched it over and over and over again. But even my friends, like who were into BattleTech, they barely caught it. They would watch it with me sometimes because I taped them all. But I've encountered people since, but it felt like nobody watched the show. But man, it was so good. How can you not love that?
So I don't remember much of the show, but it's all on YouTube. So I've started rewatching it. There are problems with it.
Oh yeah, it was a terribly awesome 90s cartoon, right?
Okay, so quick question. What is your opinion on the magic face tattoos?
Oh, that's how enhanced imaging works. I mean,
right. Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, see, so back then, I had even though I play BattleTech, I didn't really know much about the clans or the lore or anything like that. So I just assumed that they did that. I mean, I knew that they were kind of playing this silly game with the 3D renderings and things like that. But yeah, so I don't know. It didn't faze me because I didn't know any better.
Okay, so I asked because a friend of mine from the YouTube space, like hates it. He's like, why would they do that? That's not BattleTech, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but think about, okay, actually, you as an artist probably are going to, back me up on this. But my thought was, like, especially for like a 90s cartoon, like characters didn't change. Like at all. Like obviously they would animate them, but for the most part, like they're always wearing the same clothes. They're always doing the same thing. And so, especially with BattleTech, where it's being sold as, or like those that know, you got the neuro helmets and it's a giant, thing covering your head. And so now we have to essentially reanimate the entire character.
Yeah.
So my thought process is, they did the enhanced imaging because it's a nice money-saving option because, this guy's always got face tattoos. Great. I never have to change it. And just makes it easy. But anyways, he's
made for a fun gimmick. There's actually a kind of a deep dive or retrospective. There's this great channel called Secret Galaxy. Yeah. They have a great thing on the show. If anybody hasn't seen that and they want to find out some of the behind the scenes stuff, it's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, well, but yeah, exactly. They, it's the 90s. You want to show off some 3D animation because, like, for then it was super cool and amazing. Yeah. It is not super cool and amazing now. But it is still one of those where, it does allow them to do something else. Now, as far as the miniatures, this actually, I want to get your opinion on this.
Okay.
So, BattleTech, for years, the tech readouts just gave this flood of designs, all unique, all different. I mean, you could tell like when one artist worked on a design or whatever, but even then, the designs all looked unique. Okay. Is it just me, or does all of the new BattleTech art look like the mechs walked out of the same factory?
Okay, I can kind of see some of that. I think there's some that maybe deviate a little more, but there's definitely like a very similar chunky aesthetic going on.
Right.
I like it. So I haven't really thought about it too much now that you mention it.
Now,
But
hold
yeah,
on.
it does look like, yeah, I can see that. I think you're right.
So there's nothing wrong with liking it. I didn't say it was bad. However, it does make all of the mechs look the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, a great example of this, if you want to look at the old designs, you would see things like the crab and stuff, or some of the mechs that would have like these really odd or different smooth arms or other planes, right? Versus different more segmented or chunky stuff. They looked fundamentally like they were designed by a different car company, right? Or whatever.
Exact point
Yeah.
or exact example that I used.
Yeah.
That, you know, like they all look like they came out of the Toyota factory or what, you know. And that's my biggest criticism. Like I've actually noticed that more in this current round of releases. So Nerd says the game has a consistent design language is not the criticism people think it is. All right. I'm going to push back on that in the fact that there's design language for a game, which I think is fine. But again, we're talking essentially like car manufacturers. And to be able to say that the Hyundai looks exactly like the Toyota, looks exactly like the Ford, looks exactly like the whatever, I do think that is a criticism. So, okay, so let me bring it back to miniature sculpting. How would Tom Mason approach that as a sculptor?
Well, yeah, so I'll answer that question, but I want to ask this first. I think I heard in one of your videos you were citing some of the artists from the old
Dwayne Luce,
illustrations.
Brent Evans.
I'm not familiar with the names of the people who did that, but it does make, now that you pointed this out, it makes me wonder if there's like one concept artist redesigning all of these mechs, the illustrations for them that sculpts end up being done from. Because, and I kind of answered this question already, the way I approach it, because I have to, like I can design a variety of things, but I definitely lean in a specific direction. So if I want to do more variety, I have to really, really stretch myself, or I team up with another artist with a different aesthetic, and then I can just interpret their art into a miniature, which is what I did with the villain and the founders.
So I know that they are using different artists. Real quick, Nerd says 95% of people can't tell the difference between a Nissan and a Ford. So yeah, those different cars all look a lot alike.
I have seen there's a couple models that I see driving around. There's like I can't remember. There's a Hyundai and then the Ford Fusion there that I always like. At first I'm like looking, oh no, it's that one. I thought it was the other one. That's funny.
True. I mean, and let's be honest. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a box on wheels. Right. I will give her that. Of course, Seraphis does say, "Where's my Bugatti Veyron?" I'm guessing the Veyron's a mech. I don't know, but yeah, but
to further your point though, like if we go back to World War I and World War II, right? You see, there was like everybody was making tanks, but there was some kind of like fundamental looks, right?
Well, even now, look at like the American Abrams or the Soviet the Bugatti is 100% clan tech.
That's awesome. I love
that. You know, the crap, what was I saying? Dang it, now I can't remember.
We were talking about modern tanks.
Oh yeah. So like the Abrams or the Challenger or the Leopard, you know, yes, it's a tank. There's only so much you can do with it, but they still look different. They, you know, it may take somebody to know, oh, that's the German tank, that's the British tank, that's the American tank, but they still have to they still have a distinct look. And in my opinion, the Ill Clan designs, which I know are different different artists, but I think it's
more common art direction maybe going on or something.
Right. Anthony Scroggins is like the art director for it. So he's definitely pushing it in a particular direction. And that's the thing. I don't want to say that they are, I'm not trying to say they are bad designs.
Yeah. You've always had a good eye for this, and you've challenged me on this as well. I think with the Gnome Guard, right? Like having distinction is a very important thing to you, and I think for a lot of people, but it's something that really resonates with you, being able to see some distinction between similar things.
I will take that as the compliment it is intended. I don't recall being that big an influence, so cool. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like you're dealing with a universe that like okay, here's a way that I would describe it. It's like if you had, say, in the 40K universe, where the Eldar and the Space Marines and the Orcs all look like their equipment came from the same manufacturer. And yes, they're all humans, but clans should have a very distinct look for how the clan mechs come out. The stuff that's built in the Draconis Combine should look different than stuff that's built out in the periphery. And I think, hold on. I think the current art design has sort of removed that.
Gotcha.
And it's a frustration that I didn't think I would have, because like again, when it all came out during the Clan Invasion era, I was like, okay, cool. This is all great. I like these new designs. For some reason, it's hit me, during the release of the mercenary stuff, that wait, they lost the individuality. So, but yeah, it's I know it is me being a critic, like that can't actually do the stuff that they're doing. Like I can't draw the mechs. I can't sculpt the miniatures.
I think it's a better criticism than a lot of people who would, just being nitpicky, right? I mean, you're not saying anything is bad. You're just pointing out that there is a bit of a sameness in the design sense.
Right. So anyways, that I thought was interesting. But yeah, it has been like, I don't know, just going back to like the first Somerset Strikers. That one was just like when they announced that pack, it's like, yeah, I'm just give me that one. I'm not even questioning it.
Yeah, I was so excited to see them, because I had seen a couple shots of one, but not in the detail that you had, and I had no idea they were doing that with the Wolfhound. That was so cool. Like you said, because they've done several already, to have just such another unique pose. Because I actually, because right, you want lots of the same mech, but it's boring for them to all be exactly the same pose. I actually converted my commando to look more like the art they did, the new art with them running.
Oh, okay.
And it turned out really good. It looks like a lot of fun. And now I've got, 2 different commandos, and I don't know why you'd have 2 commandos, because they're pretty terrible, but I love the way they look. So that's my bane with all miniature games and stuff. I want to paint and play with whatever strikes me as looking cool.
Yeah, that's actually my biggest problem in general. Is it's always the rule of cool factor, as opposed to, well, this is the most effective unit. I'm like, yeah, but it looks like ass. I don't want it.
Yep.
So what else are you playing these days then?
I am about to go super deep and heavy into Test of Honor. We're about to start a campaign at the Miniatures Club that I should frequent more than I do, but I'm about to be. I've been on a hiatus as I was getting the Kickstarter ready and doing all the Goblin Menace gaming stuff earlier in the year.
That's the historical Japanese one, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is so fun. It's so cinematic the way the combat things play out with that game. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. So, yeah. And which miniatures do you use for that?
I'm using I'm using the Gray for Now miniatures. There's a couple like from Warring Clans that Footsore does that I will probably get eventually that I really like. But I'm starting with kind of the base things for that. I did score, and man, I paid too much for it, but I did score the original Bandits set from the first edition, which I always wanted to get and I never did. And I was able to find it in one place on eBay from somebody in Italy. I was like, okay, well, I almost didn't buy it. I'm like, nobody else has it. And
wasn't it like Warlord or something that put it out first?
Warlord. Yeah, Warlord was the first publisher for it, and then after some time, the game rights reverted back to Graham Davey and Andy Hobday, and then they are publishing it. Or I think Graham is technically formally in charge of it. Yeah, keeps it going. But yeah, so I was never a big fan of the plastics, even though I put together several of the Warlord plastics. But the metal miniatures they did were just outstanding, and it is just shame of shames, in my opinion, that those aren't out and available anywhere. I don't know what happened to them, but if you want any of those figures, you got to hope you find them on eBay or something, or somebody's selling them as a job lot. Have
they announced if they're going to reprint any of that stuff?
Well, not that I've heard. I don't have my ear to the ground on it necessarily, but I keep an eye out for it. And
I mean, it's almost like you're in that industry. Maybe you should like poke a couple of people. Say,
you should. I'll ask, see if my connections that know some Warlord people can.
Your super secret sources. It's actually funny you bring that one up. A buddy of mine just backed a Kickstarter. What was the name of the thing? For some like Japanese miniatures, Nippon Saga. They just launched a second one, and he said he's already got the first one, and so he like printed off because it's for the 3D printer files. And he printed off like a full Japanese castle.
Oh wow! Yeah, this is the Ian Lovecraft. He puts out some great sets. That's awesome! Wow, I did not know about this.
And I've just spent all of Tom's money from the Kickstarter. No, kidding, folks. He will fulfill. I promise.
I always fulfill.
Always. Even if the person who backed it is just really late in filling out a, backer survey. Anyways. No.
Yeah. So that's the big thing on my radar. Playing. I love Xenos Rampant. I've gotten a couple games of those in this year. And then BattleTech, man, it's just, I play a lot of BattleTech still. Love that game so much.
We will have to figure out an online game. Like okay. I've got a few people that want in on that. So
I'm in.
I have plans. The problem is I have way too many plans. And
so do we, as we all do, yeah.
And I am not getting any younger. So all right. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and we'll end it here. Tom, again, it's always fantastic to talk to you. I hope everything is going well at home. Everything else is going well with you. Obviously, we will talk a little bit more, after I end the stream. But literally, you are just one of those quality people out there. And so I am super excited that you wanted to come on and have this chat.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I will reiterate, I will throw that right back at you, man. I love hanging out, and you've just been a great stand-up guy. I'm glad we got to hang out, especially since we missed earlier in the year.
Exactly. So, all right. So everybody, in the links or in the description, there are links to Tom's website, to the Kickstarter. Go back, Havoc Protocol. Let's see if we can get some new villains out of Tom. I believe in him, but he's going to need some help from us to make that happen. So, with that said, anything else you want to say before we go, Tom?
No, I should have something prepared because that question is always asked, but nope. I got nothing. Thanks, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I guess I'll just throw this out there. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, just search Tom Mason Sculptor on there. And I talk about miniatures I make and sculpting miniatures if you're interested in learning that.
Hold on one second. There we go. There. I linked to you I linked to his channel in the description too. See, maybe I should be more prepared. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new here. Regardless, thanks for watching, and we will end awkwardly at